Tell him I'm on my way.
But nobody.
Tell him I'm on my way.
Nobody wants.
I keep my mind on my money.
What is up, guys? Chunky back here on my channel, finally back for a game review, this time for Mafia 3. By the way, I apologise for the wind if you guys can hear that. It's really windy outside. I couldn't get it to shut up. I will try my best, but in the meantime, let's get to it, guys. So let it be said, I really liked Mafia 2. I even played Mafia 1. I like the games, I like the stories, that's what they're kind of well known for. They've always had a dull open world, but the stories are good nonetheless, and they make up for all the problems that the games have. With that said, is Mafia 3 a return to form? Is it better? Is it worse? Are there problems? Well, yes and no. First, I'll just go over the brief plot. So basically, your main character's name's Lincoln Clay. He's a Vietnam veteran. It's set in the 60s, so he's just come back from war, 1968, fresh out of the box, and he's basically working for a mob, for a gang. The leader of this gang is Sal Marcano, and you're working for him. So the game opens up with a really cool bank heist mission. It's a great set piece, and you really get involved. You understand where this character's motivations lie, and he's actually a really likable character. But upon rejecting Sal Marcano's offer to kind of rat out one of the characters, you end up getting ratted out yourself. So Lincoln basically gets shot in the head, and this isn't really a spoiler. It's all in the opening, it's all in the trailers. I'm not going to spoil anything that you really wouldn't see in the trailers. So basically, Lincoln's left for dead, but he's not dead. So he's coming back with a vengeance, along with his lieutenants. He's got 3 lieutenants, Cassandra, Vito, and Burke, and they're all going to take down Sal Marcano. That is the basic gist of this game. Now I'm going to split this review into 2 sections, things that I really liked and things that I didn't like, because it's kind of split down the middle, I'll say that much. Firstly, the things that I liked. Lincoln is a really likable character. I don't know if he's that fleshed out over the course of the story, but he's fleshed out enough so you can get behind him. You can understand his motivations, especially from the start. This game has a really strong start to the story. The open world doesn't actually open up for you for, about a couple hours, maybe even 3 hours into the game. It's really just setting the tone and setting the pace with these characters. It's all about them, so that you see when Lincoln's finally betrayed, you see the cost of this betrayal, and you see why Lincoln is so mad, and you don't blame him. So there is that motivation, and I really appreciated that. On top of that, the story is actually quite good. It's actually damn good. It's better than most open world stories, and for that, it's very focused. Now that has a negative, which I'll get to later, but the story is very focused, it's drawn in, and it's very tight. You are basically doing nothing except progressing through the story. So if you like that, there is that. And then again, this is one of the best stories that I've played in an open world game. It's actually that good, guys. Going hand in hand with the story is not only the city, so it's set in New Bordeaux, which is basically New Orleans. It's also not the city, but the time period in which it's set. So it's set in 1968. In 1968, in particular New Orleans, it was a very, racist time. It was a very racist place. The black community was segregated. It was looked down upon, basically just for being black. So you really do feel it, and it's great because the mechanics are represented through racism. So if you're driving in the city, you're driving in a white neighborhood, whatever, just for being black, you drive past the cop and you'll actually get their attention. You're borderline close to getting arrested if you do anything funny. You just got to make your way, keep your head down. It's really good. For example, the mechanics work in a way that if you steal a car in a predominantly black neighborhood, you'll hear the cops on the radio. Someone will call the police, for example. You hear the cops saying, look, if you want to check out this stolen vehicle, go check it out if you have time. But if you're in a white neighborhood and you steal a car, someone calls the cops, and they're there instantaneously, and you are getting fucked up. You really do feel that. You feel pressured, you feel oppressed, and you feel like you're being treated unfairly, and that's great. I really appreciate the fact that Hangar 13, the guys who made this game, have said basically, look, we don't like the fact that this time is, really racist, and we really don't like what we're doing with the game, but it's definitely necessary to represent the culture at the time, and that's great. That they do that in spades, in my opinion. The game actually looks quite decent. Some of the motion captures and the cutscenes are really nice. I appreciated that they're fleshed out. The acting is actually quite good along all fronts. I didn't really feel like anyone was really shortchanged. I feel like everyone was actually giving a fair effort. The mechanics are in the middle. They're not amazing. The shooting mechanics and the driving mechanics, but they work fine. The cover mechanics, I got caught up a couple times, but for the most part, it did work and it did its job. And last but not least, the soundtrack. The soundtrack is probably one of the best used soundtracks for music from the time. I love that kind of Jimi Hendrix, Bob Dylan era of music. It's great, it's raw, and it's used very well. Especially, you start up the main menu, Jimi Hendrix all on the Watchtowers playing. It really gets you in the mood and it gets you involved in the era. As far as what I liked, that's about it, and they were strong. So let me say that likes and the dislikes, the likes are more or less, they outweigh the dislikes. So when I go into the dislikes, I do have quite a few problems with this game. But before I go into it, I didn't hate this game. I'll tell you that much right now. So firstly, the game is so focused on its narrative that there's not really much else to do outside the narrative. So you are basically plotting along this narrative the whole time. Every mission that you get is directed at the narrative. It's getting back at Salman Khan and taking down his empire piece by piece. You can't do anything outside of that. That is it. And that's the worst part, because it makes the open world itself feel kind of dull and lifeless, because you can't do anything outside of story. I mean, so what I mean is, you got GTA 5, you know, you can play the story missions, but you can also do races, and you can play golf, and you can get carried away with, you know, different events like stunt jumps and all this different crap. There's so much in the world to keep you occupied apart from the story. That makes the world feel more dense and lifelike, because there's so much more to do. You don't have to go through the story. Mafia 3 is not like that. It's completely dedicated to its story. You are doing missions that are solely for the purpose of getting back Salman Khan. And that's another problem I have with the game. A lot of these story missions are just repetitive. Go here, take out this person. Go here, destroy this racket. Go here, get this amount of money. That's kind of all you're doing throughout the game. The story missions, you get these set piece missions that take place kind of at the end of every set of missions. So every set of missions is taking down one particular person. Once you do enough missions to get their attention, you're finally given this, you know, really nice set piece, usually an action set piece in which you're taking down this member of Salman Khan's family. Those are great. Those are actually good. They push the story forward and they're actually quite fun. But in between that, man, it's just padding. It's just fucking all this stuff that you're doing over and over again. And the fact that you can play this game for over 20 hours doing the same thing, you really notice it quickly. If you don't want to get bogged down by the repetitiveness, I'd say play it in short bursts, 1 to 2 hour bursts. You won't really feel the burn. If you're playing this for 4, 5 hours at a time, you're really going to get sick of it. Another mechanic was splitting. You can split all the rackets that you earn. You have 3 lieutenants. You can split your rackets between 3 lieutenants, Vito, Burke, and Cassandra. Each person you give a racket to gives you certain perks, weapons, and stuff, and you know, combat perks and stuff like that. I felt like it was too easy to split the rackets among each lieutenant, and the point being, if you don't split the rackets evenly, a lieutenant will actually get upset with you. They'll say, "Nah, this is it. You know, I'm fed up," and then they end up being your enemy. I appreciated that. You don't really feel like you're stressed out. You feel like it's so easy to just keep everyone happy, and I don't really feel like that mechanic was really implemented well. Another issue I had was that a lot of the animations replay a lot, along with the missions. Let's say you're interrogating someone. You're constantly doing the same stupid animation where you hold them by the throat and you threaten him with a knife, and it gets old. I've seen it that many times. Like I said, playing this in bursts of 3 to 4 hours is just, it's a burn, and you notice it that much more. In saying that, because it's so repetitive, Lincoln does so much of the same thing, and that's killing people. He can be seen as a ruthless killer. I've heard that, you know, in other reviews that, you know, Lincoln's just a straight out killer. And it's kind of explained the fact that he's been through Vietnam, he's seen some shit. But yeah, at the same time, Lincoln is going through and just killing people. There's no connection to what you're doing and why you're doing it, because you're doing so much of the same thing. You're desensitized almost. You don't feel that connection. You don't feel that what you're doing is very valid. You just feel like it's just another day in the works, and it takes away from a story, not too much, but definitely puts a dent in it. If you're a collector, you can collect these Playboy mags and stuff like that, and they're interesting because apart from the naked girls, there's actually articles from real Playboy magazines, which is quite cool, but at the end of the day, they do nothing. There's no trophies or achievements linked with finding these collectibles. You don't get anything the more collectibles you find. They're just there for the sake of being there, and I feel like that's a wasted opportunity. All in all, as a package, this game is still a solid play. And I know I've just shitted on the game for the past 3-4 minutes, but let me tell you why it's a solid play. Because when I say the story is good, it's genuinely good. When I say that the culture and the issues that this game tackles are tackled well, they are tackled well. All these positives really do outweigh the negatives, and while it does get repetitive, the story is definitely interesting nonetheless. I was curious to some degree to see what happened at the end, and while I'm not going to spoil the story, obviously, I did enjoy the story. I thought this story is better than most open world games and the stories they have to offer, although there is not much else to offer. So playing this game from a story point of view, getting used to the characters, getting used to the culture and the open world, definitely this game is drenched in culture, and that is the best part about it. While the issues still stick, and they take away definitely this game, if this game had those, you know, secondary missions and those open-ended quests and things to do within this open world, and the open world felt more dense, this would definitely be a must play. And it just scrapes a solid play, but it's a solid play nonetheless, because I did enjoy the things that it did well. Anyway guys, that's it from me. This has been a review of Mafia 3. I apologize about the wind because that is really fucking loud. If you liked the video, guys, leave a like down there, leave some comments, tell me what you thought of Mafia 3. I'd love to hear from you guys. If you're new, subscribe to my channel. I do stuff like this all the time. Game reviews, TV show reviews, and movie reviews, guys, past and present. I love doing stuff like this. That's it from me, guys. This has been Chunky, and I shall see you soon on Chunky's Reviews.